You're listening to If Only I Were Wiser podcast, where Raina Wilson brings together wisdom and raw life stories to provide encouragement and truth. So many times it's easy to become discouraged in your own pursuit of health because your story or circumstances look drastically different from your favorite influencer or even the expectations you had for yourself. If that is you, welcome! This space is for you to learn, breathe, and maybe just listen and see what wellness could look like for you. Hey friends, welcome back to the If Only I Were Wiser podcast. On today's episode, I'm super excited to introduce the queen of a woman behind Postpartum Nourishment, Holly Stein. This episode is all things postpartum, nourishment, rest, ways to really honor your body postpartum, not just the baby, and Holly crushes it. So let's go ahead and dive in. Welcome, Holly, to the If Only I Were Wiser podcast.
Thank you so much. I'm so happy to be here.
This was such a fun and divine intervention conversation because I had been following along with your platform for quite a bit of time, and then just to connect with you in real life was just it's so cool.
I love that.
So I would love to get started by introducing you behind your platform. What does your family life look like, and just day in the life of Holly right now?
I know. Yeah. So I'm in Huntington Beach, California. I'm married and I have 2 kids. My son is almost 7. He's in first grade. My daughter just turned 3. We love the beach. My daughter's in preschool right now. My son, we homeschool, but he goes to enrichment. It's like he's at home sometimes, not at home sometimes.
Right.
We love to cook. We love to garden. I feel like we're definitely, but I also love to go to the movies sometimes. We're a very blend of I don't know, crunchy, but also talk about Britney Spears all day too.
Yes, I love that. I definitely can empathize. I almost introduced myself to new Instagram friends as I'm totally down for beef liver and raw milk, but at the same time, we definitely went through Chick-fil-A this week because my son needed the indoor playground because it's way too hot in Texas. That's the way that we live our life.
Oh my gosh, I've actually never been to Chick-fil-A. They just built one right by my house.
Okay.
We have them in California, but they built one a 2-minute drive. I should go.
Oh yeah, it's dangerous, but we'll get canceled for the crunchy community. But I'm sure that your postpartum experience has played a role, as for many women that start in the internet world or creating a service, that's a part of their story.
Yeah.
So let's dive in there. How did your postpartum and entrance into motherhood kind of shape your perspective and your desire to create what you have in this space?
Yeah, it's crazy. So when I got pregnant with my son in 2016, I was we were already very well down the wellness rabbit hole of nutrition, all the things. I'd already started making all of my own cleaning products and beauty. That was not a new thing for us. So I kind of pretty much knew immediately we would probably not be in a hospital. So we did our research. We ended up choosing a birth center, but I had a midwife, I had a doula, we did hypno babies. I was very well researched for pregnancy and birth, for the right yoga stretches, the right nutrition, all the things. And then I just didn't do any research for postpartum, but it wasn't I was no, I'm good. I just didn't know that I needed to do that. And my midwife was very you gotta rest. You have a wound the size of a dinner plate from your placenta inside. You cannot get back up and walk around and do all these things. So I'm okay. I rested, but when it came to the food, I think I prepped 1 meal. I obviously was going to eat more than once. And then I ate a lot of salads and cold smoothies. Those were, quote unquote healthy foods. And then people dropped off well-intentioned junk food. And I'm well, that birth was so hard. I deserve this. I've been eating so clean for the last 9 months. And I was insanely constipated. I was chronically constipated and scared to poop for the first month. And then I just felt like technically like my uterus shrank back down fast. I stopped bleeding, but like I just felt like blech all the time. And I'm like, maybe that's postpartum, I guess. Like that's just
Right.
normal. And there wasn't like Instagram was not being used the way that it is now with all these like educational, like informational accounts. It was just like a picture of like your food still. Like it was not is now. So went to like, joined a mom's group and this girl was talking about the book, The First 40 Days. So that book is like the traditional
Mhm.
Chinese medicine approach to postpartum, which is like a must read for everyone who's pregnant. And it talked about how postpartum nutrition should be like warm, soft, easy to digest, like things to get your digestion like back online. And I was like, oh my God, that makes so much sense. And like, but you just don't know what you
Mhm.
don't know. So I was like, people, sometimes when I have like the redemption birth, I'm like, I need the redemption postpartum. Like I'm gonna do I'm like this overachiever. So I'm like, I'm gonna do it right next time. So I got pregnant with my daughter. She was born in September of 2020. So I prepped probably over 60 meals. I had them all in a deep freezer. Some of the recipes from the first 40
Wow.
days, some other ones from Pinterest. I had a few friends help me. It was so fun. And I love to cook, so it was fun for me. And then when the birth came, all my husband had to do was just defrost, reheat, and bring it to me in bed. And I had zero digestive issues. Like the first poop was like, I was scared. I'm like, oh my God, it was easy. Like it was so great. It just like came right out. And then like my mood was just so much better. And every time I ate, I felt like I was being like wrapped in this like warm like hug. And I was like, oh, like I just feel so like nourished and safe right now. Like it just in the chaos of your like diapers and bleeding and leaky boobs and hormones, I just felt like so then maybe like when she was 6 months old, an acquaintance reached out to me that she was struggling with her first postpartum, wanted like a recommendation for a doula. So I sent her a recommendation. But I was also like, I'm gonna like cook you some food and just drop it on your doorstep. Like I had this great experience. You need this. She's
Mhm.
like, sure, I'll Venmo you like for just tell me how much the groceries were. And like, honestly, like I don't even want your money. Like the fulfillment that I am going to get to like bring you this food makes me so happy. Like that's all I really like want or need from this. So dropped her off the food. She was like, oh my God, like everything was so
Yeah.
delicious. Like it was so easy. Like I felt so good. Had another friend with having her third. Um, I cooked food for her for as a present instead of like another onesie or whatever. I'm like, you already have two boys. You're having a third boy. Like you've got stuff.
Yeah.
And then she was like, wow. She's like, I really was surprised how different this third postpartum was compared to the first two. So that's when my daughter was about one or so. I was like, I really want to start this business. And like, we have no experience in like commercial kitchens or food-based businesses or anything. And my husband was like, this sounds like a lot of work. I'm like, I know, but
Yeah.
I don't know. Like, let's just do it. And then I made like a PDF on Canva with our menu and I got like a website and just said like, website coming soon, click here. And then people would just text me or DM me or email me for orders. And I took Venmo and like we were out of our house for about the first year. And then we got in a commercial kitchen since January. Uh,
Wow.
and then started shipping in February nationwide. And it's just like taking off.
That's so incredible. It was actually funny. Once you guys started going nationwide, I was like, perfect. I was like, because we're not local, so we needed
I
this.
know, I know. We actually have quite a few people in Texas. I mean, there's like some people who are hip to wellness in Texas for sure.
Hmm. Yeah. But that's just such a cool story. And it's so encouraging to hear like other moms experience postpartum because I would say like I definitely empathize with the overconsumption of information for birth and pregnancy.
Yes.
And then the other day I read or heard somewhere that somebody was like, I wish instead of preparing for birth, which like you should do,
Yes,
like
yes.
I had Caitlin from Happy Home Birth on, like we care about birth here, right? But she was like, instead of preparing as much as I did for birth, I wish I had prepared for motherhood,
Oh, yeah.
which is what I think that just intimate postpartum period is. And nourishment plays a huge role in that.
No, I was thinking, like, because birth, the way that it's portrayed in our society, it's, like, so scary and so horrible, and all the movies and the TV shows make it so scary that I feel like
Mm-hmm.
we need and we you can't know it until you've been through it, that I feel like we come at it from, like, how can I, like, research this from every single angle to know as much as humanly possible for this, like, seemingly terrifying experience that's gonna, like, happen to me.
Yes, for sure. And then it's like, then you walk through birth, like it is. We need to give space for this like monumental moment because it is for both, like it's the birth of your baby and the birth of the mother, which
Right?
I don't think that we talk about as much.
No.
But it's one day, or maybe several days for some of us a little longer, but then it's like you're not equipped for yeah, but you're not equipped for those intimate moments afterwards where you're right, like you're leaking milk all over your clothes. I just remember being so confused by like I was so like messy, which sounds so funny, but nobody tells you that because all you see on Instagram is this like perfectly pictured picture of this beautiful baby and I have my hair and eyelashes done and I'm like I'm bleeding and in diapers. There's his
I'm
poop on
sweating.
me, maybe my poop. I don't know. Like I can't even get out of bed.
Oh god, I like one of the second day, I was like, I just all I wanted to do that day was like brush my teeth. That was like the one thing I think I didn't get to do until like 4 p.m. Like,
Mm-hmm. Yep. I think the first week I had a friend come over and I showered. I had a C-section, so that's where I definitely like I had
Mhm.
planned for birth.
Yeah.
Not really, because then I had a C-section, wasn't planned, wasn't expecting that. And then I was like bedridden from our C-section. And so I had a friend come after my husband helped me shower and she like blew dry and like straightened my hair. And that was
Oh,
like my one, you know, like I sat on my bathroom floor and I was just like, can you just come straighten my hair, please? So
oh
I
my
can
god,
feel
that sounds like
somewhat put
heaven.
together. Yeah. But I think it's like these small moments of nourishment, and nutrition is a huge, huge component to that. So if
Totally.
you could speak a little bit to just maybe it is some of the components in the first 40 days, but like why is it so critical for mothers to nourish well postpartum instead of falling into the lie that is where you start the bounce back culture, the
Oh,
smoothies, the salads, because I got wrapped into that as well.
yes. Yeah, so from a traditional Chinese medicine perspective, I think most people have heard of like yin and yang, like there's the balance of the two. And it's not like one is better than the other, but they should be in balance. And the yang energy is more like youth, hot, fast. And we're a very young culture here in
Mm-hmm.
America because we're like, go, 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 focus on the youth, get the Botox, like nonstop. And that's birth. Like birth is very like a lot of the guttural noises, it's intense. And so after birth, you were like in this yin deficiency, which is like slow, cool, more feminine energy. And so
Mm.
to nourish the yin energy, they say you need things that I always say like stick to like mugs and bowls. So things that you would drink out of a mug, like tea, bone broth, warm milk, because you're not putting sparkling water or champagne in a coffee mug. Like,
Mm.
and then
Yeah.
bowls of like rich meaty stews and like oatmeals and porridges and soups and things like that. Like you're not going to put
Mm-hmm.
in a bowl. And those are the things because essentially when you are going into birth, like your digestion like shuts down. Like we've got other stuff to focus on, and you really need to like nourish and like bring it like gently back into working properly. And traditional Chinese medicine says the way that you take care of yourself in these postpartum times can affect your health for the whole rest of your life, which I think is
Mm.
really cool. I almost like, I'm like, I want like one more to like
Yeah.
really like have a great postpartum. But it's really just focusing on almost like when you're sick and you're like, I just want something like warm and nourishing and like comforting. Like those are the foods that you want to be eating. And you need, I mean, you're losing blood after the birth, which is normal, but your
Mm-hmm.
uterus has to shrink back down. You have to produce breast milk. Like you need healthy fats, you need protein, you need complex carbs, like that. I would say at least the fourth trimester, I would say probably even longer. You should not be focusing on the like calorie, counting small portions, that kind of thing. Just really focus on like nourishing yourself. It's going to be better for your mood. And like, I mean, all the things.
Oh, definitely. And that's something that I wasn't prepared for postpartum was the hunger. Like, I thought pregnancy hunger was a thing. And then my milk came in and we were breastfeeding. And I was like keeping crackers. I think at the hospital, we had cheese sticks in the, like snack room, cheese sticks and graham crackers.
Okay. Yeah.
And I remember going, like going home the first day, I was like, I need that, 2 a.m. cheese stick and graham crackers. Was it the best? No, but I wasn't prepared for that mama bear hunger where I could have eaten anything and everything.
My first postpartum, I couldn't even make it through the night without eating. And I would keep a rice cake by my bed with like some peanut butter. And it's funny because it's so Ayurveda, so it's like the Indian perspective of postpartum. Like they call it like vata, which is like made up of air and space. Like you have a vata imbalance of too much air and space that you need to like bring down. And if you think about it, you have the baby, and then now your uterus is still huge and empty. It's full of like air and space. And to like soothe the vata imbalance, you want to avoid the like dry, crunchy, airy food. And I was surviving off of like rice cakes. I'm like, no wonder I was so.
And I had crackers. Yeah. Yep. Crackers and water.
Yeah.
It was just so funny to look back on. And we touched on it a little bit, but outside of a nutrition standpoint, which I'm sure we'll circle back to, but why is physical rest and emotional support also major facets of nourishment in the postpartum period?
Yeah, I love that because I feel like when we talk about nutrition, like we always think about food, and like it's something I'm very passionate about. But I'm like, nutrition is not just the food; it's like the emotional support. It's the like the sleep. Are you getting sun? Are you grounding? Do you have community? And I really like my first postpartum. People talked about how you don't want any visitors. Like you're gonna be like, no, get away. And I actually was the opposite, where I felt like, I'm stuck in bed. Like, can someone please come visit me? Like, I just feel so lonely right now. I wanted people to come over. So I think really just kind of leaving that open-ended maybe for your postpartum. Like, maybe I will want people. Maybe like I don't want people. But for my second one, I really like I knew that's where I would be. So I kind of like had friends, because they didn't want to come over right away because they're like, oh, I don't want to bother you. I'm like, no, I had a group text with like some friends from like my mother's blessing. And I was like, can somebody, like, I'm ready. Like, can someone please come over? And I really want you to come over during like the late afternoon, early evening transition, because that's the hardest time of day.
Yeah.
Yeah. It's so weird how that transition, once it was nighttime, I felt okay. But that transition from day to night, like I really struggled with. And now I'm like forgetting your question. I don't even think I answered it.
No, that was so good. Because I think we talked a little bit about the rest component of nourishment. And one of the things that I want to implement this next time around, and like you said, maybe it's open-ended depending on where you are and your needs. And if you even have community in your new area, like we're a military family and where we're moving next, we're starting over.
Right.
So I'm like mentally almost planning that community building time frame into our baby planning time frame, because I'm like, I need to have people. But one of the things that I heard was like a 5-5-5, like the 15 rule.
Yeah.
And it was like 5 days in bed, 5 days like around the bed, and then it was like 5 days like in your home. But it was just like the focus of being rested.
Yes.
And I laugh, but I really cringe at myself now because I remember coming home. And again, our birth story was a little traumatic in terms of I hadn't prepared to leave our house and like not come home.
Yeah.
And so when I got home, I automatically, literally fresh 24 hours after coming home, started cleaning. You know, I like
No,
was like picking
no.
stuff up off the couch. My husband, I'm like waddling, you know, and my friend of mine is bringing over our meals. And my husband's like, Raina, what are you doing? And I'm like, my brain just can't, like, I just need to pick this up.
Oh my.
And
After major
yeah.
abdominal surgery.
So all that to say, we finally got to the bed, but I heard that recently and I was like, oh, that would just be so good for me, knowing my personality that wants to go to make rest a priority for my postpartum period
Yeah.
alongside these other areas of nourishment.
Yeah. And it's like, especially like you can tell, like, if you start like bleeding more, that's like your indicator, like you're doing too much. And I definitely got to that place with my second postpartum. I was really good at resting in the beginning. And then I forget, maybe she was like 2 weeks old. I'm like, yeah, okay. Like, and I got up more and I was like, whoa, major blood gush. Okay, I'm doing too much.
I actually remember going to my 6-week appointment and I was still bleeding at that point. And I remember going to my doctor, which was kind of like just a crapshoot in general because he didn't even check my C-section scar at my 6-week appointment. It's fine.
What?
And I remember telling him, oh, I think my period came back because I'm like bleeding. And he was like, oh, yeah, I don't know about that. And then come to realize, speaking with other mothers, like, oh no, Raina, you probably just need to slow down because you're still, like, your body is just not stopped. So I was like, oh,
Wow.
noted. Thank you. I'll keep that in mind next time.
Yeah. You really learn a lot from the first. And it's hard because you want to like, I feel like the postpartum game is changing. Like there's a lot more awareness about it now, but it's like you don't want to tell someone like, get ready, it's going to be horrible, because you don't want to scare people, but like it's not horrible, it's just very hard, and you want to be like it's hard to really like relay like what it is without like raining on someone's parade again. You need to prepare.
Yes. It's so funny because my husband talks, I can't remember who the actor is right now. I think it might have been an SNL clip, but he's basically talking about, oh, well, when my wife and I got pregnant, everybody was like, oh, we're so excited for you. Like, this is going to be such a sweet time. Like, this is it, right? Like, we're so excited for you. And then the baby was born and all those same friends were like, welcome to hell. But my husband and I just laughed because I think that it is like, it was this, we prepared for all the things that we could within our capacity.
Right.
And then after that, you just kind of wing it, you know?
Yes. Like there is an element of winging that is for sure going to be happening.
Yeah. But I think you even mentioned it earlier, like the mother gets forgotten in the postpartum period. So how can we begin to support the mother in this major life transition that I think it's so easily for her to get overlooked because everything's baby?
I know. And it's funny, like, and as women, we don't ask for help. Like we don't ask for help. And I always try to remind people, I'm like, there are going to be very few times in your life that people will be like willing-ish to like drop what they're doing and come help you. This is one of those times. So you like got to cash in on those like favors. So, I mean, obviously the food, I mean, I feel like the food makes it very easy to like, you can click an order and send it to somebody, especially if you're like living far away from us, or there's also like, local, companies like throughout the country. You can make your own food, but really just like asking the mom, like, what can I do? Or, hey, I'm going to like Sprouts right now. What can I get for you? And I'll drop it on your doorstep. Like really, I think being proactive in like giving the mom like, hey, do you want me to come do some laundry? Do you want me to like do this? Do you like what? Like almost like give her maybe some ideas of things that can help with, or sometimes just like listening and not listening without offering advice.
Or offering to take the baby. Like,
yes,
that was like so hard for me to learn postpartum, was that like, oh, like the desire for me to like hold my son is not just because like he's my son and I'm like super excited that he's mine, but also like this such an intimate window of attachment and attunement, and like the mother baby dyad that was like, oh, this isn't sinful. Like I should have been supported to like protect that.
Right.
And the baby's not a burden. Like I wish I'd and I did. I had a lot of support in my postpartum period, but you even said it, like offering the mother options for things that might not be baby related, because that mental list for me didn't disappear. I watched the dishes build up. I watched the laundry build up. I watched the house get trashed because I couldn't bend over.
Yeah.
Like had somebody just been like, here are 5 things that I have a couple hours for this week, pick 2 of them and pick the days, like that would have been so helpful.
Yeah. I even like made a little list because I was the second time more prepared than the first time, but I kind of had like very brief. Like I kind of had like some cleaning supplies that I got like a little plastic bin, and they kind of just put on our kitchen counter. And then I like made some notes like the vacuum is like in this. Like I kind of like made it's very easy for someone to come over. They wanted to help. I didn't want to feel like I had to be like, okay, well, let me show you where this is, or let me like this or whatever. I kind of had like a few things, like I had like laundry detergents, just like a few things that were just set out in the bin, and like lists of like, this is where the broom is or whatever. So people could come and then not feel like they were like, okay, well, I don't really know where this is. Like I want it to be easy for everyone, or I'm going to feel like I have to get up and like help.
And then, that is such a good idea. I wouldn't have thought about that. That's so good.
Yeah, I know. And I also like was more shameless the second time. Like if people were going to come over, I like asked them to stop at the store. I'm like, can you get this and this and this? And they're like, yeah, totally. And then I would just like Venmo them. But people are happy to do things if you ask.
Mm-hmm. Which I think you hit the nail on the head. Like there was this level of like shame or being like I felt like I was a burden to my friends or family. Like, hey, like I prefer not to drink Gatorade. Can you get like the light gate? Like just little things.
Yes.
From that to like, I need help showering, like, can you like, because I can't stand up, or like, can you please hold my hand while I poop? Like I had a friend come over within the first like 48 hours, and she watched my newborn son while my husband like held me so I could shower off the glues and everything, from my C-section. So
yeah,
it's all of the, I think, little ways that we care for the mom, not only physically, but I think the mental load as well. Like you said, as simple as laying out the cleaning supplies or having a designated basket of like, this is everything that you could need. Please don't use bleach. And here you go. I would like my kitchen cleaned, and here's the soap for the dishes.
Yes.
That's so good. What would you say would you take the same approach to spouses then for support in the postpartum period? Like kind of just manage expectations?
Yeah, I think it's interesting. I just put a chat box on a story from Instagram the other day, and it was like, what has been the hardest part about postpartum? And it was a very common theme of people of like spouses and partners like not realizing that like you still need help after like 2 weeks. They're kind of like, okay, 2 weeks, like let's get back to life. Like you were still very freshly postpartum at that point, or like spouses going back to work. I mean, I feel like for a lot of people, going back to work is going to happen when it's going to happen. There's not a lot of control around that. Right. But I think, I mean, my husband's like very on board with the crunchy like lifestyle and stuff. So I mean, I think for the first 2 weeks, I never changed one diaper. I was like, I'm up all night like breastfeeding. Like you need to get up with me at night, and you're changing every diaper. So he was like very on board with that. And just, I mean, really the food, like making sure like she's hydrated. My husband, I'll have to send it to you, but we have like a postpartum PDF guide that has a bunch of recipes, but my husband wrote like a page in the PDF that is like advice from a dad for other dads. And he really talked about, and my husband's, and a lot of men are, they're so good at just like, he's like, emotions and hormones are wild. Like she's going to say things that like she does not mean them. They're going to come out. And you just like, you need to act like you're the concierge of a 5-star hotel and be like, oh, I hear what you're saying. Like, oh, I'm so sorry. You just kind of like, the customer is always right. And like, she is always right now. Like, you just got to be
Mm.
flexible, be like, sure, whatever you need. You're doing a great job. Really like the emotional support. I mean, something as like simple as like a foot massage. Like, I was just like sitting in bed. It's like, oh, do you want like a foot massage? I'm like, yes, I do. And the
Yes.
massage seemed to feel better when he offered it first versus me asking for
Hmm.
it. So sometimes it's, I mean, even still now, I'm like, I want to go on a date, but I want you to plan the date, but I also want you to have thought of that. Like, I don't want to have to ask you to plan the date. So I think just kind of like keeping those things in mind for partners to just, the mom is right now. Like, she's going through a lot.
Absolutely. And it was this place where my husband and I realized that communication is key across marriage, period, but one of the things that we didn't realize come up was in the early postpartum period, I was like, hey, like, I would love for you to take on like the house tasks. So like when he got home from work, it was dishes, laundry, all of the like things that I physically couldn't get done other than keeping
Yeah.
said small human alive. But as I grew into my postpartum period, I would probably say like 6 to like 9 months, I, was walking, could do things, still nursing, but still postpartum.
Right.
And I think I like had gotten frustrated with him because I was like, I need to do the dishes. And he was like, I thought I was doing the dishes. I thought it was loving for me to do the dishes. And I was like, okay, yeah, but now I need a non-baby task. And
Right.
that changed
Oh, that's so
everything for
good.
us because I didn't realize that I wasn't communicating a switch in my needs. Initially, the most loving thing that he could do to serve me was all of the non-baby tasks. But as I was home full time trying to raise and keep Ledger alive, like when he came home, it was encouraging and loving for me to stand in silence and do the dishes for 15
Yes.
minutes without a baby on my hip.
Oh my God, I just got chills. Like, that is so, like, we just need to like soak that moment in. Like, just be really knowing, like, yes, like your needs are going to continue to change postpartum. Like he said, it's like in the beginning, you can't do anything, but then you get to the point where you're like, I need to be like an adult for like just a few minutes. Yeah, and really communicating them because no one can read your mind. But sometimes you don't even really know what you need, and then you figure it out, and then you can adjust. I love that.
And my husband was like, Raina, bitch, you never told me this. I'm like, okay, well, I've just been stewing for 2 weeks because it's my postpartum feels. But now this is what I need. So yeah, it made all the difference. Like we had a just huge shift in our household. You could tell just because like we weren't communicating effectively.
Yeah.
So what outside of nourishment, and we've touched on it a little bit, but are some of your favorite ways to love on postpartum families? Is it going and it is like, let me do your laundry? Is it let me give you these 5 meals? And then what were some of your favorite ways that you were loved postpartum?
Oh, yeah. I mean, for me personally, I feel like food, people know me as food. Food is easy for me. I love doing like the food thing, but then I love to go um like visit people and just like
Mm-hmm.
shut them like share their birth story if they're in that place where they want to
Mm.
share. I have like this personality where it's like I go to the park and I meet like a random mom and like I know her whole life story. Like people just feel like they can just tell me like everything very quickly on. So I feel like a lot of people like will share their birth story with me and know that I like do not have judgment like surrounding that. So I love to do that. I have a lot of friends who, I have an older one, and so when they've had like their second ones, like taking the older one like to the park or something, helping out with the older ones. I mean, food and like listening is really like my two like favorite things. But I think oh, for people, I really just loved people. I mean, how funny, the same thing, like coming to take the time and just like sit with me, like just come and like hang out with me. Like I my love languages are quality time and acts of service. So when people give me their quality time, I feel really special. So, and then if they wanted to like, yeah, fold a little laundry while they were there, that was great. But that didn't feel like the most important thing. I kind of just felt like, the dishes are in the sink. They're going to be there. And I'm like, okay with that. And my husband cannot stand dishes in the sink. So I know like those are going to get done. But I really appreciated like the quality time of people coming in to like, sit with me and like hang out. Yes, I definitely also recommend like, I mean, if it's financially feasible, like a postpartum doula, like that is so helpful. And even, I mean, there's a few different services now where you can register for like doulas and like services and things like that versus like just like stuff.
Yeah, that would have been super helpful. But I really did. I dove headfirst into the overconsumption of pregnancy and birth. And then my postpartum was really focused on, I think, returning to fitness in a healthy way because I was educated in that.
Yeah.
And I enjoyed it. So it was this level of like, great, like how do I build strength? But I don't think I protected like the first 40 days afterwards of like, Raina, you can completely vegetate and eat. And that is more than enough.
That is more than enough. Like, during that time.
So what was one of the first, thinking back, if you could hear one thing from yourself, what would you have needed to hear thinking back to your son's birth?
Like the birth or like the postpartum?
I would say postpartum period. Like I'm thinking those first couple days where you're like in a whirlwind coming home and it's like, I don't even know what my life is anymore.
Yeah, but what I wanted to hear? Just that I'm doing a good job and like this is all like normal, like it's going to be hard, but you're like going there, this period ends, like this difficulty does not last forever. And then it kind of felt like, well, this is like my life now. I mean, I remember even when my son was like 3 months, I like told my husband, I was like, I don't know, like he's great. I love him. I'm so happy we have him. Although if this is like the very best that it gets, I don't think I want like another baby. And he's like, I agree. And then it just kept continuing to get better and better and better. And then he's like smiling and he's crying, he's doing more things and it's only gotten more fun. But I think just the initial of like, you're doing a good job and this is very hard because I don't know if you've had people ever tell you who had like toddlers like, oh, just you wait, the newborn, that's the easy phase. It's gonna only get harder. And I was like, what? And like it's just different. Like it's not yes, they don't go anywhere. Like when they're born, you put them on the couch and walk away and they're gonna be there still. But the beginning is so hard. Like it gets so much better.
Definitely. And those just weights, like I think people have shared a little bit more on Instagram transparently about that. But it's just a different kind of hard, like, do I absolutely miss going to Target and putting my son in the big car seat and walking around? But it's also like very hard. And that's hard. It had its own hard. I couldn't physically get him out of the car seat by myself because it was too heavy. That's hard now from trying to chase my son through Target because he can't be tamed, like those are just different kinds of hard.
Yes, like it's always hard. There's always just different highlights and different challenges at every stage.
Definitely. So one of the things that I've been thinking about just looking through Eat Mama meals and just like how I wish I had prepared postpartum, because I did have a meal train. But as I've grown in just what our family does, natural rhythms, and just education around nourishment, I felt thinking about the second baby whenever he or she comes, I didn't want to feel like high maintenance,
Yes. Yes.
Asking for food. So I was just like personally curious of like, how do you navigate saying like, hey, these things are really important to me because I think that they support my nourishment best without coming across as like, like these are all the things that I'm requesting. It has to be
Yes,
this, or
I know.
don't bring me any garlic bread,
Yeah. Yeah, so I think so people can register for gift cards. So a lot of people will register for gift cards like on Baby List or other third-party registries. So you can get gift cards to buy meals. Or I tell people, like, if you want to bring me something, some people want to do that themselves and you set up like a meal train, I would just say, we're like, I almost just try to like blame sometimes, like, oh, I had a lot of digestive issues.
Sure.
I'm trying to like, or my midwife has recommended that I
Yeah.
stick to like warm, soft, easy, like soups and stews. Like, please let me know if you have any, questions. So I kind of need like a parameter of like, you know, soups and stews and porridges and things like that.
Mm,
So they had an idea without being like, I need it to be organic and regenerative meat
right.
and fed and this and this and this. And because you don't want to come off so high maintenance that people are like, forget it. Like, nothing's
Right.
going to be good enough for you. But just trying to stick to the parameters of like, the soups and the stews. And people are like, okay, I can do that. Like, I can make the soup. That's easy.
Yeah. Which now thinking back makes total sense. Some of my favorite meals postpartum were the rich, warm, nourishing meals. And now it like all clicks.
Right. It's so fun. It's like, yeah, when you eat it, you're like, oh, this makes sense.
hmm Which is funny looking back because now I've like since messaged those friends that brought those dishes and I make those recipes like regularly
Yeah.
because like those were the things that I felt good, which again, like we've talked about, makes all the sense because that's what supports just healing because you don't feel great breastfeeding and drinking a smoothie
No,
for dinner.
no, you don't.
Well, Holly, this has been an amazing conversation. I would love to plug where we can order from you, any other services that you guys provide, and where we can get in touch.
Yeah. So our Instagram is eat.mamameals with one M, M-A-M-A. And then the website is mama-meals.com. That's pretty much where you'll find me. I'm not hip enough for TikTok yet. And then, yeah, I mean, we have all of everything we cook. We put it into like 32-ounce like bamboo containers. We freeze it and then ship it nationwide. So we have packages that are set. We have like Build-A-Box where you can choose all of your own. I would say the most common customer path is like they'll order a package the first order because you get a variety of everything. And the second and third order after that, they'll do a Build-A-Box where they'll pick all their favorites after that. But we have like some dry mixes too. So we have like lactation cookie mix, like lactation brownie mix. Like our oatmeal is really popular. So we have it in a dry mix. Maybe you're like, I'm more postpartum. I don't need to like keep ordering meals, but it's easy to be able to just like tear open this bag and like make the vanilla chai pancakes myself, but I didn't have to measure all the ingredients. It's almost like a stepping stone
Yeah.
to kind of like having everything like measured out and ready for you without having to like, do all the cooking, but you can do the cooking yourself.
Yeah. So are those like ready to go breakfast, lunch, and dinner meals that you could just like kind of piece together?
Yes. So there's 2 different breakfast options and there's 6 like kind of like lunch dinner options. And we say they contain 2 servings because I mean, I was freaking hungry. Like,
Oh, yeah.
when people say they get 3 servings, I'm like, really? Like, I just feel like I was like mowing it down. Like,
Awesome. I have loved this conversation. Like I said, I was just super excited to chat. And as we wrap up with our closing question, I'm curious to how you'll answer because we've talked about a handful of things that we would have done differently. But if you could provide any wisdom to your younger self or for our community that is listening, what would you share?
oh, I know this is such a good question. I feel like there's like a million things, but especially I feel like for the kind of crunchy community, there's like that trajectory, like the path you follow. It's like you start to learn some information and then you're like, oh my gosh. And then you become really obsessed. Like, I mean, I went through this like orthorexic phase where I'm like, I can't eat that. I can't eat that. That has a seed oil. I can't eat out. I'm going to get like almost, and then you kind of like come back down where you're like, oh, okay. Like I can I don't know, you get what I'm saying. But I think so I'm a recovering perfectionist, and done is better than perfect. Like I wish I would have known that earlier, where not everything has to be perfect all the time, whether it's like the food, I don't know, the clothes, or like the business, or like in any capacity. Sometimes like it's easy, with the food, I'm like, I can't, I try to cook every meal at home, and sometimes like it doesn't happen. And sometimes my kids just like need to be fed, and I'm like, done is better than perfect. Like I just try to look at averages and not obsess over things being perfect.
Yes, and that couldn't be better applied than any other period than the postpartum period.
Yes.
Done is better than perfect,
Yes.
whether it's laundry, dishes, or the fact that you changed your own diaper today.
Yes. Like that's the thing, is like the way I cannot stand the way my husband folds the towels. I'm like, who would fold the towels like that? Like, but I'm like, done is better than perfect. Like the fact that the towels are folded and it's done, and like you need to just like let go on some of those things.
Yes, for sure. Holly, this has been such a blessing of a conversation, and I'm so thankful for the platform and just way that you guys steward and nourish women and families across the nation. So thank you so much for joining us today.
I know we can talk all day.
For sure.
Thank you so much.
Of course, and we'll catch you guys on the next episode. Thank you for listening, friend. I hope you enjoyed the episode. If you don't want to miss any wisdom or encouragement, be sure to subscribe to the show. And don't forget to rate and review. Your feedback means so much and helps our community grow. If you're looking for more wellness wisdom and free resources, head over to livingwiselywell.com or get connected with me on Instagram at wiselywell. And if you're looking for a break from the hurried health lifestyle, check out my Return to Rest resource for tangible ways to slow down and finally find rest.